Hey y'all, and welcome to this week's From the Vault episode from the Magdalen House podcast. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggies. Every first and third Wednesday, we bring you a new release, and our From the Vault episodes, we share podcast releases from our 3 different podcast series: Recover Ed, Recovered, Interviews with Alcoholics, and Hope for the Family. Our podcasts aim to connect, inspire, and educate alcoholics, loved ones, and the community to the Magdalen House and the services we offer. We are so glad that you're here. Thanks for listening.
All right. Hello, everyone who is listening. My name is Stephanie Crawford, and I am a recovered alcoholic on staff at the Magdalen House, as well as I get this amazing privilege and opportunity to host the Magdalen House podcast. And what we're doing today is one of my favorite series. I love interviewing family members. So these are members of our family support group, which helps loved ones of alcoholics. You do not need to be affiliated with the Magdalen House to tune in. We have in-person meetings as well as online. And I'm sure Laurie will talk more about that later. But if you would like to know more about our family support group, you can go to magdalenhouse.org/family. And so I'm here to introduce our guest. So excited. Her name is Laurie. She does so much for Maggie's and family members and is always on the firing line, willing to help. And I'm just so excited that we get to talk to her today. I know you guys are going to love what she has to say. And so, Laurie, if you just don't mind introducing yourself and giving us a little bit of background, let the listeners know a little bit about you and what led you to be in the position of family support.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Laurie Evans, and I am so proud to be affiliated with the Magdalen House, or Maggie's, as I lovingly refer to it. I first came to Maggie's house 8 years ago when I brought my qualifier there. I walked in, and I just remember feeling kind of a weird feeling. I was there to make sure she was going to AA meetings and doing what she was supposed to do. I was pretty sick back then, but I just always have felt love when I walked into Maggie's, and it wasn't what I expected. And then when Maggie's gave our family hope and our life back, or just life, I'm always going to be indebted to Maggie's. In my heart is what I'll always be. So I came to family support because when my qualifier got sober at Maggie's, and I didn't really have a guide to help me through that. And it was kind of a need that I identified, just kind of selfishly out of my own need, that there needed to be somebody that helped the family members as much as, the alcoholics were being helped. I saw how much Tina was being helped, and God bless her, Lisa tried to help me. I needed somebody who had been where I was. And in my meetings that I was going to for Al-Anon, I also noticed that need. Me and all of the girls that were also going to the same meetings with me, we realized that there was a need of a in-between. Someone who didn't necessarily need an Al-Anon meeting, might not need an Al-Anon meeting ever, but just needed support for the first couple of weeks or month or whatever it took, just to give them hope and let them know that there are people that have been there and that care. That was the most amazing thing to me, that when I came into families, just Al-Anon, that I wasn't the only one. I was like, oh, wait, there's other people that are going through what I was going through. So that's a little bit about, how I came to family support.
Well, you mentioned the word qualifier, and I know what qualifier means, but there might be a listener on here who doesn't. So can you explain what is a qualifier and who is your qualifier?
Oh, okay. Well, my qualifier is Tina, and I couldn't be prouder of her. I'm so glad I get to say her name. Thank you. And I just love her so much. Qualifier means that because she is an alcoholic, I qualify for Al-Anon. To go to Al-Anon, you have to know or love an alcoholic, or not love an alcoholic, I say. Just have an association with an alcoholic. So it's kind of just what qualified me to get into Al-Anon. And it's kind of like a slang that I always use, that we use around, like, oh, my qualifier. So Tina is my qualifier.
Thank you so much. I love, love, love Tina, by the way. And if anybody's listening, Tina has her own episode of Recovered, and it's in season 1, and it's fantastic. She's amazing. So
Right.
awesome. Okay. Well, I would like to know, I know what it's like in the sense of an alcoholic's story. What is it like for a family? Like, can you explain what it was like before, like what you were like before you found recovery?
Sure. I'm going to go way back though. I hope that's okay.
Absolutely.
Because once I went through my 5th step and I identified, everything, I realized that this started when I was little, and I was 6 years old. My brother, I have 2 brothers, and at the time one was 4 and one was 2. The 2-year-old ate some dishwashing detergent. And before I finish the story or even go any further, I want to tell you that he's fine. And I just talked to him today and everything's great. But the story it's a little bit hard to hear if you didn't know that. So he ate some dishwashing detergent. We had to go to the hospital, and we were used to going to the hospital. My brothers were very rambunctious and always hitting their heads and just stitches and everything. So we were at the hospital, and the doctor just came out and he was like, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but your son isn't going to make it through the night. And I just remember, I'll never forget that feeling. Because I remember looking at my parents and just thinking, okay, you had one job to keep us safe and you failed already. So because of that, I'm going to have to take over. And I just really felt this like control thing that I had to start controlling. And that never went away. That just started getting worse and worse. I mean, my mom and dad were amazing parents. They did a great job. It was just an accident, but I didn't understand that at 6 years old. And I just built on this control thing, for the rest of my life. I did it to my friends in college. My very first partner before Tina, I'm surprised she even still talks to me, because all I did was control her. I didn't know anything else about anything, how to love anybody, without control. And it was a good thing that she was a heavy drinker, if not something else, because drunks are easier to control, right? When they're drunk. And so that helped our relationship. We were together for, I think, like 10 years or so. When we broke up, I met Tina, and I was so excited on the very first day when she told me, hey, I drink a lot. And I'm like, awesome. And she was like, and I'm never going to stop. That's what she told me. And I was like, okay, I'm not either. But I didn't really understand, what that meant. I liked it that she was drinking a lot. Like I said, I tried to control her. And if you know anything about Tina today, there isn't 1 ounce of her that lets me control her for a second. Good thing God removed my obsession for controlling, because when I went through the steps, because Tina doesn't let me control her. When she was drunk, it was a little bit easier, like I said. We went through, I think, 2 or 3 years of a relationship when she was heavy into her disease. And it wasn't pretty, because I got sicker. I was already pretty sick when I met her, and I got sicker and sicker, and she got, obviously sicker and sicker. So when she got sober, I kind of felt like it's hard to explain, but here she was having a spiritual awakening and transforming, and God removed her obsession for alcohol, which I can't believe I'm still 8 years later, can't believe I can say that, in my own house. And I had like a front row seat for all of the transformation and the beautiful everything that happened. It was hard for me to believe, because I would lay there at night when she was still drinking, and I couldn't wait to get in bed, because what I would do is I would get in bed, and I'd always plan for about an hour where I could, okay, my plan to get her sober today did not work. I literally became obsessed with getting her sober. My plan to get her sober didn't work today. So I'm going to think about my next plan. And I would lay there and come up with a plan, as many nights as I could think to do that, which was pretty much every night, because I had an obsession. And when I saw God remove her obsession just in a blink, it was what it seemed like, something that I've been trying to do for, years. That's when I was like, maybe there might be something to this, and I'd always been religious, grew up in Waco. You can't grow up in Waco without being religious. It's the law. So when she told me that she had a really close relationship with God now, and that her and God had a song. You know how when you were in high school and you had a song with your boyfriend? Well, Tina and God had a song. And I was like, well, okay, that's interesting. And so,
Can you say what the song is? Do you know what it is?
I don't remember what it was. And
I
I
wanted to
don't
write it
think she ever
down.
did. You'll have to ask her. But I think it was like a George Strait song, or maybe a Alan Jackson. It was a country song for sure. But they had a song, and so I was like, okay, there might be something to this. And I decided I bought a book so I could make sure she was doing it right. And like I said before, I was going to meetings with her, and some of the meetings were at Maggie's. And we went to meetings even before she ever decided to go and stay at Maggie's for detox. Anyway, I was going to her meetings with her, and I would walk by the Al-Anon room, and I would hear them laughing in there. And it would make me so mad. I was like, okay. I always knew those Al-Anon people were crazy, but why are they laughing? And how do they have time to laugh? They must not have as big a job as I have, because I've got to keep Tina sober, and I can't think of anything else. I can barely go to work. So about the third time I walked past there, and I could hear like laughing and joking and just levity, And I told Tina, I went into the room with her and I sat down. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to go into that Al-Anon room and see what it's about. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. So anyway, I went in there and I was mad, and I stayed mad for a long time because I didn't think I needed a program or a solution or anything like that. The ladies and I think a couple of gentlemen in there, were happy to help me. And I ended up, after about 3 or 4 weeks, going through the steps and had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. And I never looked back. It literally changed my life. And I hear people say this, and I used to hear people say this, and I would just think they're crazy. But today I hear people say this, and it's something I agree with just implicitly, which is having an alcoholic in my life is the single best thing that's ever happened to me. And that's only because there is a huge difference in believing in God, who is my higher power, and trusting and relying on God, and literally waking up every day to try to fit yourself into maximum service of God. And it's funny because if someone would have asked me, what has this been, like 7 years ago, what my purpose was, it would be, I want to be a group director at the Richards Group, and I want to be, just have lots of money. That would have been my purpose. Today, my purpose is one single thing, and that's just to do God's bidding and to be the best I can be in His eyes. And it's an amazing, peaceful feeling that I love.
So good. So amazing. And I think that you are such a good demonstration of somebody who is fitting themselves to be of maximum service and doing God's bidding. It's just like, you can see it on both you and Tina. It's amazing. Now, you talk about being sick, and I'm sure there's some people, because when I talk about being sick to like quote unquote normies, they don't understand I'm talking about like spiritual sickness,
Right.
And so can you talk about like what it is to be sick as far as like a family member's perspective, and why? I know you talked about, you were going to meetings with Tina and you were really sick then, but I can see how somebody would be like, how is that wrong? I'm going there to be sick, right? And so can you just talk about that aspect of things?
Yeah, and that's one of the hard things. If you think about the next family member that walks in to every meeting, and they're so upset, and they're just because they were where I was at, where you just become obsessed with getting them sober. And you're right. What's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is when God gave you a life, and He gave Tina a life. And if I am ignoring my life and not being the best daughter, sister, stepmom, dog mom that I can be, right? And all I can do is think about her, which is what I did. I'm surprised I still kept my job. Yeah. And so that's all you do is obsess about them. You're kind of laughing at God in a way. Like, I know you gave me that life. I don't care about that. I care about this. And it is so hard to explain to a family member that you can see is in that situation. And that's what I'm talking about being sick. It's so hard, though, to explain to them that everything you think you need to be doing for your alcoholic, you need to be doing the exact opposite. And I know it doesn't seem like love to leave them in jail or to not answer their phone calls, but it really is. Because I know that when Tina lost her job due to her alcoholism or to her disease, what was the first thing I said? That's okay. We'll get you another job. I didn't want her to hurt. I never wanted her to feel any pain. And all I could think about was helping when I wasn't asked. She didn't ask me to do that. She just told me she lost her job. That's all she said. And that's just one example of 1,000 that she came in and said, I lost my job. I'm like, okay, well, hold on. Now, what's the site where I can go and look for you a new job? Indeed. Yes, I'll go and do that. And she just kind of would always just look at me like, I mean, nowadays she'd be like, oh my God, I would never do that nowadays. But back then she just kind of, let things in one ear and out the other. It's helping when you're not asked to help. And and a lot of times it's hard to see because you love them so much and you're obsessed with getting them sober. So it's hard to see that the best thing you can do is to let them feel, have their own consequences and not do things for them that they can do for themselves. Because when I did stuff like that for Tina, whether it seemed like a nice thing to do to me, but really what I'm saying with my actions is, I know you can't do this, so I'm going to do it for you. Mm-hmm. And that's terrible. I can't, my heart can't even fathom that. And it's not at all what I meant, but it's what comes across that way. And when you're sick, you don't know the difference.
I love that so much. So good. And I will definitely say, as someone who did not have any enablers, I'm very grateful for that today, because I got sober at 27, which still seems like it was too long because my alcoholism and addiction was awful. But I think about, like, if I had people letting me stay there, answering the phone or whatever, like, I wouldn't have brought to the desperation that I was brought to, that I needed to get sober. And so I'm super, super grateful for that today, even though back then I would have told you, like, I hated my mom and she's like the worst person in the world. And so I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, I've listened to your story, Stephanie, and it sounds like your ex-husband kind of did that for you. I mean, helped you, but he did it in the right way by just saying, all right, we're going there over here. You let us know when you're, ready. So
yeah, it was definitely good.
Yeah, you should be grateful. That's good.
Yeah. Thank you. So step 1, powerlessness. What does step 1 look like in a family member? Like, what is the powerlessness? What does that look like?
Well, when I sponsor women, and I've sponsored a man before, we talk about step 1, we're powerless over people. And a lot of times, if it's someone who is dealing with an alcoholic that is in their disease and not recovered, we just say, I'm powerless over alcoholics, and you can also say I'm powerless over alcohol. Well, you can just say that because we are. But for me personally, it's I'm powerless over other people.
Awesome.
And my life definitely had become manageable.
Yes, because I always wondered, like, how you work step 1 and as on the family member,
Well, because we have the same exact disease with the exception of the body. If I want to tonight, if I wasn't trying to diet, I could have a glass of wine and that could be it. So I don't have the body of an alcoholic, but I have the mind and the spirit, because I do get restless, irritable, and discontent when I'm obsessed. And I think that I should, if I could just talk to her or make sure I could see her if she was at the bar or whatever she was doing, that I'd be okay. And the last time I did that didn't work out, but it's going to be different this time. And because last time I texted her like 10 times and she got mad. So I'll just call her once or I'll just drive by. It never worked out. So I have the same mind where the insane thought and the sane thought run together, because my obsession just isn't over alcohol. It's over the alcoholic. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining that to me and to the listeners. I've seen you do a presentation on family support. So if anybody was wanting to know where they can learn more about that, it is a fantastic presentation on family support. So thank you for mentioning that for our listeners. Now, you talked about plans, like going to bed and be like creating a new plan to get Tina sober. Do you mind sharing what one of your master plans were?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them revolved around shame. And it's not something I'm proud of. And it hurts to even think about it. But I would, just try to shame her. Like, why can't you drink like me? Why would you drink when you've got these 2 kids that love you? Why would you, and of course, I had no idea back then, A, that it was a disease, or B, that she was suffering from anything. I honestly thought she just had a behavioral problem and that she just drank too much and she was just sassy and bad. But she's not. She's like this beautiful person that was suffering from a disease. And me saying that to her would have been the same thing as going up to someone that has cancer and going, I can't believe you are going to have chemo again. It's like it was a terrible time in our lives. But it, again, still the best thing that ever happened to me, if that's not crazy enough.
Yeah.
Because I can use that experience, not only because I got close to God and have a connection now that I'm never going to let go of, but also I have this experience that I can use to help other people when I try to, do what I'm trying to do every day. So.
Yeah. So you came in, you were angry. What was it that finally made you become open-minded to looking at yourself and working a program?
Well, a big part of it was when I saw Tina and her connection with her God and their song and all of that. And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, I didn't even know you were religious. This is so weird to me. So I wanted what she had. And so I was just thinking I would go into this Al-Anon room. And first of all, I was going to find out how they had so much time on their hands. And then I wanted to get one of them to teach me how to get what Tina, had. And luckily, that's where I found my solution at this group that I started going to. I found someone to take me through the steps. I think I've changed sponsors a couple of times since then, but not for any reason except, I just found somebody else that I related to better, or, so it's been an exciting program, and it's something I still, work every day. And like I said, that's where I found my solution.
So earlier you talked about the 5th step and your spiritual experience coming with the 5th step. Well, we talked about that before recording, but do you mind, one, telling our listeners what is a 5th step, and 2, your experience with the 5th step?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So, well, just backing up just a little bit, in the 4th step, you get to write down, and it's kind of a trick. Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't tell everybody, because if they're going to go through the steps, I want them to fall for the trick. No, I'm just kidding. It's a little bit of a trick in my mind, because they tell you just to write down everybody and everything that you're mad at, that you're resentful towards. And boy, I just wrote it all down, and I had a lot of people that had done me wrong, And then when you sit down to do your 5th step, your sponsor takes those resentments and kind of turns them a little bit into, well, let's talk, about your part. And I'd never thought about that. I never thought about talking about my part in anything, as I'm always thought I was doing fine, but that's what turned my heart when I was like, oh, so I had a part in some of this stuff. And then on top of that, for things that I just using my mom as an example, one of the things my sponsor said was, well, would you consider that your mom did the very best that she could with the blueprint that she was given? And it really just gives you empathy, not only for your alcoholic, but everybody that you're mad at, everybody that you have resentments towards. And I realized that those resentments that I walked around with and I was so mad about all the time, and like I said, I had a list, I'm sure we all did, 2 to 3 pages long. Once we got rid of those and I was able to look at those in a different manner, that's when I call it like a God tube. It got cleared out. And I just got a connection that I'm, like I said, it's almost to me like working out. I can't stop working out, because if I do, it's going to take a long time to build that back up. I'm going to lose that workout. I'm going to lose that feeling that I have. Same thing. It's my connection with God. I meditate and I pray every day, try to live in 10, 11, and 12. I try my best to live in 10, 11, and 12 so I can stay connected, and I don't want to lose it.
Do you mind talking about what is 10, 11, and 12?
Oh, no problem. So step 10 is where Step 10 is when you call your sponsor when you're bothered or upset. And I get to where now I know what my sponsor is going to say. So I'm not going to lie and say that I call my sponsor every time I'm bothered and upset. But if I'm sponsoring you and we've only been working together for a year, you still need to call me. But I know what my sponsor is going to say. So I kind of take myself through the process of like, oh, yeah, I know what she's going to say. Okay. So I'll just pray and help somebody, and then that's 10 is calling your sponsor when you're bothered or upset. And 11 is praying and meditating every day. It's not just something you say you do. You really need to do it. And once I got in the habit of doing it, I just can't end up starting my day without it. And then 12 is carrying the message to others. And you can't help it. Once you have a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, that's all you want to do. And so 12 is my favorite, but also the easiest step, because it's all you can think about doing is carrying this message to others, because you want them to feel the same peace and connection with God that you have.
Yeah, I will say sometimes that if you have been through this work in the 12 steps and you don't overwhelming fire desire to go carry this message, you probably missed something. Because I feel like it's one of the symptoms, or I can't think of the word, that is a characteristic of the spiritual awakening that we get. That's just,
I think you're right. I never thought of that, but I think
yeah,
you're right.
That's just my experience anyway. Right. And how could you not want to go help somebody after you've experienced the difference between the two,
Yes, exactly.
Well, I know that, first I want to ask you, okay, you were saying, what your sponsor is going to say, but I'm sure there was a time that you didn't know what she was going to say. So
I still call her. It's just
yeah.
not as much as I did the first couple of years.
I'm just wondering, like, what things did your sponsor help see? Like, did you learn from her that maybe like still stick out today? That maybe you also carry on to your sponsees?
Yeah, it's and there's nothing like a situation particularly that I could think of, but if I, there's a couple of different things. Like I would call her and say, well, you're not going to believe what Tina did today. And she's like, you're probably right. I'll tell her. And then, she always, again, just like she did in our 5th step, she'll point out, well, have you thought about pausing, or have you thought about, this? She just kind of points out the things that I should think about. And it just helps me it brings me back to remembering that God has a plan for Tina. God has a plan for me. It's our lives. And I need to have empathy for what she's going through the same way she has empathy for me. So there's that. There's all other kinds of things. Like I'll get mad. I remember there was a church, and I don't remember the name. It's probably a good thing. I had read an article about how there was a gay elder person in the church, and they actually made him step down because he was gay. He had been contributing to the church and doing all this stuff. And so of course I called her. I'm like, I'm so mad about this church. And she said, well, okay, do you go to this church? Do you have anything to do with this church? I'm like, well, no, but I'm really mad about it. And she's like, stop reading things about that church, just move on, and it's just things like that. They just kind of guide and direct you. And you're right, if you let yourself, you can get upset about a lot of things in this world, but again, you're shunning God when you do that, because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're getting wrapped up in something that's really none of your business, So just those are just a couple of examples.
Yeah, that always is a nice sting, whenever you're reminded of something being none of your business.
Yeah.
At least it is for me, for sure.
And you don't think about it. And so those are the kind of things where I know now what she's going to say. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be upset about that. I think I'm going to pray and move on. So
yeah.
Are you the loved one of an alcoholic? Our family support group serves as a community for friends, loved ones, and family members of alcoholics to learn about alcoholism, understand how to help an alcoholic, and experience an improved quality of life, regardless of the alcoholic's recovery. We have weekly support meetings that meet virtually and in person, as well as a monthly speaker meeting. To find out more about our family support group, visit magdalenhouse.org/family.
Well, I know that like you and Tina are both super active. Did you get in recovery? So you got in recovery after Tina, correct?
that is correct. Yeah. Because I wanted what she had.
Yeah. And was there a time where you would get mad or jealous or angry that she was doing so much? And did you ever feel left out?
Oh, the first year it was hard for me to understand it, until I went through the steps. And I think there was like about a 6-month lag there. But I thought when Tina got out of Maggie's that we would just go to Chewy's and everything would be fine. Like we're just going back to our lives, right? You're cured, everything, you're not drinking, everything's great. Tina tried to tell me, she really concentrated on her program that first year. And she tried to tell me as much as she could, like, look, my program is going to come first. I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, sure, of course. I didn't understand what that meant. And that was a little bit hard at first. Because like I said, I thought we were just going to go back and do our normal things. So that was a more of a learning curve for me. But once I learned it, embraced it, and stepped back, that's what that is when. So I wasn't on top of her anymore. I took a step back and gave her room to work her program. And that's when I got to witness the beautiful transformation, because she got to become anything she wanted to be. Anything that her and God had decided she wanted to be, that's what she got to be. And I got to watch it. And I wouldn't have been able to witness that if I'd have been on top of her, like I was in the beginning. And it might not have turned out as beautiful as it did. But, and that is one thing that I'm immensely grateful for, is that someone told me, well, it was actually Lisa, just step back and give her room to work her program. And it just, like I said, it was a learning curve. It took a little bit. God helped a lot, but now we're there. And like I said, that it was a beautiful thing to watch. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I love it. Well, now that you guys are both super active in recovery, I just want to know, how do you make time for each other? How do you make time for your relationship? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah,
because you guys are both obviously in love too, and have a great relationship.
I love her so much, and she loves me. We always fight over who loves who more. But not really fight. She gets mad at me if I say, she'll say, I love you. I'll go, I love you more. She'll be like, don't start that. I'm like, okay. She actually does it. She's really good at scheduling date nights, and because we've got kids too, and those kids are about to leave for college, and we're getting prepared for that. And so we are, she'll just schedule up a night, and sometimes like I'll notice it'll come up on my calendar 3 weeks from now, she'll be like, sorry, I looked at the calendar and that's the next time that, we have. And so that's the time when, she doesn't really, if she's got an emergency, she'll take a phone call from a sponsee and she'll just say, I'm sorry, I got to step out. And I'm like, I understand, it's okay. But that's the time that we just try to reconnect. We have a date night, and we try to do it once a month, but it might end up being every couple months, especially with the kids. When the kids leave, hopefully it'll be more. But remember, we've also been locked up for two years together in the same house. So we're doing great. It's relationships were not built for COVID quarantine. I'll tell you that right now. And I truly believe it is because of both of our programs that we've actually come out stronger on this. If we hadn't had the program, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So I know you mentioned Tina gets phone calls from sponsees, and do you get phone calls from sponsees? Like, can you talk about sponsorship on your end? Like, what does that look like?
Well, yes, I sometimes get phone calls from sponsees. Here's what happens with our side of the program. A lot of times, and I've sponsored probably, I would say altogether, 20 people. And I've taken about 8 of them through the steps completely. Some of them feel so much better after that third step that they, they get down on their knees and they pray that, for God to do with them what his will is. And they feel so much better that they never complete their 4th step. And that's okay. I mean, obviously, they're not dying of a disease. It's not imperative that they finish up the steps to stop drinking. It would be great if they stopped obsessing, but it's not killing them. Mm-hmm. So I lose a lot of them after that 3rd step. They're like, I feel so good. And then some of them, they go ahead and finish up their 5th step, and I lose them there. And I just keep going and try to, go out and try to find more. That's where for me, the 5th step is where the bread and butter is. I love, doing that. But if I could just help somebody with my story alone, just at family support, I'm good as well. So.
Yeah. And you definitely do. I know that for sure. What about amends? Can you talk about amends and the amends that you made that, what did the amends look like with Tina?
Well, they were, it took me, I didn't make my amends for a long time with her because it took me a while to really grasp what I had done to her. And there was a lot. Like I said, with the shame and so many things that, just between us, but it took me a while, to grasp that. So I made my amends to her after one time we'd had a kind of a fight, and that was the deepest amends that I made. The rest of my amends were, I'm sorry, I wasn't the best, daughter I could be. And I didn't really go into detail. With Tina, I knew that she understood. I knew that she understood what I was doing, and I knew that she was ready to hear it, so that's what made that one different. And also she's my life partner, so it was really, really important. But what's funny is I remember my sponsor said, okay, you need to make 3 columns of your amends. And one of them is the amends you're willing to do right away. And the second one is amends that, maybe someday. And then the third one is the amends you're never going to do. And God is so funny because the people that I put on never, I've completed that whole list. Yeah, because I would run into them just randomly. And I'd be like, all right, God, great. Okay, so hey there, how are you? I'm in a spiritual program now, and I just want to let you know I'm sorry about the way our relationship ended, and I wasn't the best, girlfriend I could have been.
Wow.
Right?
I love that. So good. So good.
God is funny. He's hilarious.
Yes. I've heard that happen to not quite a few people, but other people.
Tina was there for one of them because it was at my high school reunion, and my high school boyfriend wasn't even supposed to be there, and and so we're standing there, Tina and I are standing there at my high school reunion, and he walked up and it's like, hey, Laurie. And I was like, oh my God, that's my high school boyfriend. And so anyway, I just went ahead and made it right in front of her.
How cool is that? Now, what would you, because we talk about God a lot, and I have a loved one, well, Isaac, who recently passed away. He used to always say that this program is unapologetically about God, because it's about building a relationship with God, because that's what's going to keep us sober. But I know there's a lot of people who come in who are not maybe as like open to that idea. I definitely see it on the alcoholic side for sure. A lot of people come in with like resentments of either religion or any of that. Do you see that on your side as well? Or as like, how is this going to help me kind of thing?
Yeah. And it's really funny because if you ever talk to me for a long amount of time about the book, about 25 to 70 times, I'm going to tell you, oh, this is my favorite part of the book. This is my favorite chapter. And people are like, wait, you just said that last week. This other chapter was your favorite. Yeah, they're all my favorite. But what is it? We agnostics. Yeah. I skipped over that chapter when we first were studying it because I was like, that didn't have anything to do with me. I'm not going to read that. And now that's one of my favorite chapters. It's such a great chapter. The book is so amazing. But, to answer your question, Stephanie, I haven't personally come across anybody. And it's a question I ask, when I first start sponsoring someone, when I do the first through the third step, I've been prepared for it. And I always ask, hey, I just have a question and there's no right or wrong answer to this. And it's kind of a cheat for me. I just say, do you believe in God? And it's okay if you don't. It's going to help me know which direction to go. Right. And so far, everybody said yes. But I do know that I'm prepared and I'm going to rely heavily on the book if that ever happens. I think I'm kind of wanting it to happen because it would be a great challenge because it kind of makes it easier when they already believe in God and you go, okay, great. So we're going to take you here. But so anyway, yeah, I want it. I'm hoping it happens one day because it'll be a good challenge for me. I love challenges. I will tell you that what I hear a lot is one of the things the family members are worried about is that their alcoholic doesn't believe in God. And that's really hard for them and scary for them because here we are talking about God and how God's going to remove their obsession for alcohol. And they're like, they don't believe in God. I'm like, and I always say, that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have to be God, number one, but it's okay because from what I've seen and I've only seen it on the alcoholic side, but every person who said they didn't believe in God comes back, comes around, right? And and it's all because the sponsors are just like, that's okay. We're gonna get you through this. And I know there's lots of stuff in the book about that with the Wright brothers and all of those analogies. And I'm ready to do it. I just haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, and I've got to witness this in Next Step a few times, is like a woman will come in for Next Step and she'll be really hesitant because she's like, well, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God kind of thing. I don't know about all this God stuff, and I'll talk to her. I'm like, look, it is, you can say the universe, nature, whatever your understanding is, like, it doesn't even have to be anything. Just like be open-minded and willing and just see what happens. And I kid you not, by the end of Next Step, I mean, they're talking about their relationship with God. They're talking about prayer. They're talking about, it is one of the coolest things that I got to see with doing groups. Right. Is like, and how quickly it can happen, because
it just needs to be a higher power than you. And because you're not going to run the show anymore. And if they don't believe in God, that was always going to be my strategy was, as long as it's not you. And we're going to take you out of you, so I love that. And I agree. It's got to be so cool to be able to see that firsthand as a sponsor.
Oh, it is one of the coolest things for sure. Well, awesome. So what does life look like today?
Well, you kind of see us and what our life looks like. Tina's at, off helping people right now. I'm at home doing this. Last night I did recovered with Lisa and Ainsley, and then went straight to family support. Just a few nights a week. This is what we're doing. And I drive down to Maggie's as often as I can. We were there on Sunday for the Maggie's women's group. I'm really excited about everybody getting to go on this retreat and everything. I'm trying to plan one for family support because it sounds so cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's what our life looks like. And then, like tonight I'm going to make dinner and it'll be ready. Tina can eat it when she gets home. I'll eat it now. We just kind of we kind of fill in for each other, when the other one has to go and do something. But that's the beauty of one of the many beauties of us both having a program, is that we make room for each other to work it. So
Yes. Now, I know you have a beautiful relationship today. Was there ever a time where you thought, this just isn't going to work? This isn't going to get me better?
The first year, and that's one of the first things I tell people. They're like, oh, they're sober and they're working in the program. I'm like, okay, I don't mean to scare you, but the first year is going to be one of the hardest and the best years you've ever had. Because they're kind of coming into their own, and you're kind of coming into your own and settling into what this new reality is going to be. And it wasn't easy. We kind of went in, I don't want to say we went in kicking and screaming, but we went in kind of at odds a little bit. But we had made a decision a long time ago we were going to go through this life together. And that's what we're doing. And it is with God's help that we're doing it. So.
Do you bring God into the relationship? Like, what does that look like? Do you pray together?
Lisa asked me that once, or no, maybe, I don't remember if it was Lisa. Somebody asked me that, and we have prayed together before, but it's not like a habit. Like if we've had a stressful or stressful time or an argument, maybe at the end, one of us will say, let's pray, after we've had our fight, but we will say that. But I know that she meditates every morning and prays every morning, and she knows that I do, and we give each other space, to do that, because again, we're in the same house. We just, give each other space to do that. But yeah, we don't really work our problems together. They're separate. They're pretty much separate.
Well, I love the praying after a fight thing.
Yeah.
I think all of us could probably do that, and it'd be helpful for sure. Well, what has been one of the greatest gifts that your recovery has given you?
This connection, and this peace that I have. I was so lost before I did all of this. I was going to church and I was seeking it out. I was buying self-help books and going to church and going to therapy. And what can I do to not have this empty feeling inside? I don't know what to do about it. And that's why controlling always helped. It made me feel a little bit better, but only for a little while. Now I get all of that from God. And I just try to make sure every day that God can see himself in me. And that's how it gets filled up. That's how the hole that I had gets filled up. So that's a bundle of gifts, but those are my gifts.
It's beautiful though. So beautiful. You recommend family members to read the big book quite often. Why do you do that?
Because I think it's a great guide. Number one, for guide for living. Number two, the first time, and I always say this, like, you're going to need to read it a couple of times. And they look at it and I'm like, it's only 164 pages. Here's the deal. You read the big book the first time, all you're going to think about is your alcoholic. If you've got an active or an alcoholic in your life, you're going to think, yes, that's what they did. They did all of this. And that's fine, because that's natural. I want you to read it again. And this is only if I get to work with someone, for a while. A lot of times they come, like I said, they come and go. But if I get to work with someone for a while, I'm like, now read it again and think of how you can relate. And people are, the people who have stuck with it, like my friend Lauren and Judy and Diane and Floyd and all of those great people, and Deb, people that have stuck with it realize that the book is a design for living. The program is a design for living, and everybody could use it, and that's why we recommend it. But at first, they're going to look at it, and it's going to be helpful, and we'll say, read Bill's story, and then read, To the Wives and Family afterward, because that's the first thing that they're, and that's it's going to give you some help. And we tell them to call us if they have any questions, and so sometimes they do.
Awesome. Well, we are getting to the top of the hour. This has been so fun. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. I think it's going to be really helpful to family members and loved ones. So my wrap-up question, my last question for you, Laurie, is if you could say one thing to the loved one who is still suffering, what would that be?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this morning when I was looking in the book, I came across this is my very favorite part. Now, if you talk to me tomorrow, I'm going to have 10 more favorite parts. But what I love to see Tina do is do her thing, which is helping people. And it always makes me think of this because they're always kind of scared at first. And this is the same when I get to work with people as well. It's on page 28, and there is a solution. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. And that to me is it just brings me chills to think about it, because that's what we do. That's what Tina does. And it's funny because then if you go on to the end of that chapter, it talks about how our hope that for many alcoholic men and women are desperately in need, and this could also be for family members that are desperately in need, they will see these pages and believe that it's not only a full about disclosing ourselves and our problems, they're persuaded to say, yes, I am one of them too, and I must have this thing. And that, like I said, I get to see it fully in all the things that Tina does. And when she starts off as a flimsy reed, and it really is, she's putting the hand of God, their sponsee's hand into the hand of God. That's all she's doing. And then at the end, it's like, yes, she's got them believing it, that they must have this. And like I said, we try to do that in family support as much as possible. I wish we could do it more. It's a struggle because, again, they're not dying from this disease. And some Al-Anons would disagree with that, because you could die from it. You could be, just go crazy. But I understand and respect both sides of the disease. I love that you're right. What Isaac said is exactly true. This is a program of God, and I'm not apologizing for it.
Oh, thank you so much. I love how family support is just growing, and all of you that I have met so far, I think are fantastic and amazing. So thank you for spending your time with me, and I will let you know as soon as it gets released.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stephanie. It was so great to talk to you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll see you later. Bye.
Okay.
We hope you've enjoyed this From the Vault re-release of the Magdalen House podcast. Tune in every first and third Wednesday for a new release from one of our 3 podcast series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on your favorite social media channels by searching for the Magdalen House.